What is up, guys? It's Doodoo Poker here, back for another video. Today we are going to calculate the Bluff EV based on the river card and also on sizing. So I'm going to ask you guys a question. You see these two hand histories in front of you. How are you playing these hands different if you have ace-3 of spades and you're on the river? Well, let's first look at the bet 65% on the river. Are you bluffing this river when it pairs? We need to go to artificial intelligence and look at the Bluff EV for this specific river. So what I did was I went to all possible rivers, and we see this is a 9 of hearts. We'll just put a 9x in here. Could be any 9, doesn't really matter. And we see with the 9 of hearts here that if you have ace-3, you should always be bluffing versus this sizing structure. I went through every possible river, and all rivers are positive EV. So when we go back to the original hand history, where is it? And I ask you this question, should you be bluffing? It should be a resounding yes. It's a 9 big blind mistake to fold, since folding 0 EV and bluffing is over 9 big blinds positive EV. So you always jam river here if you have ace-3 of spades versus the bet 33, bet 60, bet 65 sizing structure. But let's go to the second hand history. This is the important one. What happens if my opponent uses an overbet sizing? Let's say he bets 33 on the flop, bets 60 on the turn, and then he bets 120% on the river. Well, we know versus the bet 65 that it's going to be positive EV to jam, but we don't know if it's going to be positive EV to jam versus an overbet. So what we have to do is we have to go into the AI and check versus bet 120. So again, I did the same thing, and we're going to check out the 9 of hearts on the river. Now it becomes negative EV. So the sizing really dictates whether you want to bluff jam or whether you want to fold. We see at bet 65, that's a positive 9 big blind jam. At bet 120, it becomes a negative 3 big blind jam. So let's go to notes. We see on the first sizing structure that all rivers are positive EV to bluff. So if you get to the river on a 9, 5, 2, 10, X river, whatever the X can be, anything, you should always be jamming versus a triple barrel of bet 33, bet 60, bet 65. But if I change the sizing structure to bet 33, bet 60, bet 120, like in the 120 hand, well, now it's going to depend on the river. We know the 9 of hearts or any pair is going to be negative EV. So let's go over all the possible rivers. I've already done this for you, and I'm going to give you guys a synopsis of what I learned. So in general, we want to bluff less when they use overbet sizing. That makes sense, right? Because they have a stronger range. But if there's an overcard, it's going to depend if it connects with a straight. I'm going to give you guys an example. If it's a 9, 5, 2, 10 king board and the river's a king, let's go to a king river. So we see here, bluff EV on a king river, it's going to be a negative EV bluff because of the straight possibility. So a 9, 5, 2, 10 king is a negative EV bluff. But what happens if I change the king to an ace? Well, now there's no possible straight, right? So if I change the king to an ace, now it becomes a 2.3 big blind positive EV. So these are the nuances I'm talking about. When the straight is available, or a common straight like a Broadway straight, on a 9, 5, 2, 10 king board, when the queen jack's available, it becomes a losing jam. When the ace is there, now it becomes a winning jam. So we're going to go over everything we learned from all the different runouts. The first point is when the overcard connects with the straight, that's a bad data point to bluff. When the pair comes, like in the first hand I showed you, on a 9, 5, 2, 10, 5, or 10, 9, sorry, that's also a bad data point to bluff. We see on a flush river, almost every flush complete is going to be negative EV. Let's go back to the artificial intelligence. Let's say it's a jack, okay, a jack of spades, and the flush comes in. We see this is a huge losing bluff, right? Almost minus 10 big blinds. But let's say I turn this jack into a 6. Let's say I turn it into a 6. Well, what do you see now? We'll go to 6, and we see a huge difference. It went from minus 10 big blinds almost to plus 2.5 big blinds. Why? Because the 6 does not block your flushes. This is important to understand. Because the high card will block more flushes, the low card will unblock more flushes. So these are the nuances I'm talking about. When the river comes a low spade, mostly 8 of spades, 7 of spades, 6 of spades, it unblocks more flushes. So we can bluff on those low flush boards or rivers, but a high flush will block a lot of your flushes, and now you do not bluff. This is very important to understand, because when you're thinking about bluffing or not bluffing, it's very sensitive to the river card. It's sensitive to the river card, and it's sensitive to the sizing. We know in the bet 33, bet 60, bet 65 sizing structure, it doesn't matter. We can bluff everything and it'll be positive EV. But when they overbet, we need to be sensitive to not only the sizing, but also the river card. So, in conclusion, all bluff jams on the river. Let's go back to the actual hand. All bluff jams on this board texture and this river sizing will be positive EV. So jam everything. Don't worry about it. You know it's going to be positive EV unless someone has some specific read on you. Now, we go to the other one where it's a 120, and we see we have to be much more careful. We cannot bluff jam on paired boards. We cannot bluff jam on most spades because it's going to block our flushes. And we cannot bluff jam on the overcard when it connects with the straight. So no queen, no jack, no king, right? So this is what I'm going to tell you guys in conclusion. We know on the flush complete rivers, we can bluff on a couple of river cards like the 8, the 7, and the 6 because they will not block too many of our flushes. The losing bluff jams will be on all paired rivers, so like a 9, 5, 2, 10, 9 board. That loses over 3 big blinds to a bluff jam. The losing bluff jams will be on most flush completes, except the ones mentioned above. And we also know that we do not want to jam on high cards that connect with the straight, so a king, a queen, or a jack. If we jam on a queen, let's go check it out in the AI. We're going to see that it's going to be almost a -4 big blind mistake. Exactly a -4 big blind mistake. So we have to understand how nuanced poker is. When you're looking at whether you should bluff or not, you need to know exactly what the river card is and what the exact sizing is. Otherwise, you might make a negative EV play. But in conclusion, we can jam versus any small sizing on the river, bet 65, and if it's bet 120, we want to be very careful. No pairs, no flush completes except a couple, and no high cards that connect with the straight. If you enjoy this type of content, please give me a like, please give me a subscribe. New video every single day, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take care.